In this part of Module 5, you're going to learn how to do a morphological analysis. In real life, linguists do this whenever they discover and try to understand a new language. New to them, of course. So the way this goes is that you would talk to speakers and you would elicit words. You would say, how do you say this? How do you say that? You show them items, you ask. Then you write this down, whatever they tell you, or you record it, and then you analyze the new words. We are going to do this now with some language data that comes from a Native American language from Mexico. It's called Sierra-Popoluca, spoken in Veracruz, Puebla, and Oaxaca. I have a map of Mexico here. The last census that they took of speakers was in 1992, so that's old. At the time, they had 30,000 speakers, which is not great, obviously, but many of them were child speakers. That is always a good sign. I'm showing you the language cloud graphic here from Ethnologue, and the blue dot in it represents how Sierra-Popoluca is doing in terms of intergenerational disruption. So we're moving on from here. So here's some language data from that language. We get 10 words in Sierra-Popoluca and then English translations. And you're supposed to analyze what each part of these Sierra-Popoluca words mean. Okay, so typically when students do this kind of a problem, they're asked then to show that they have mastered this by translating into that language. So we're supposed to work with this language data so we can figure out how to say his, my, and your rabbit. Here's a good way of approaching that. I always look for the shortest English translation, the shortest. And that's hair in this context. So we have hair because that is a free morpheme. It doesn't break down any further. And in Sierra-Popoluca, it is Y. Okay, so we know for sure what hair means. Then I look where hair shows up again in the English text, and it's there in 8. And here the word is Iwe in Sierra-Popoluca. So the thing that has changed to go from hair to his hair is that Y took on the I. So it's EY. You guys see this? So it's a good guess that the prefix E in this language means his. So in order to check this out, you look where his shows up again in the language data. And it shows up in number 5 for his sister-in-law, for example. So the word sister-in-law also starts with an I. So it's E kapai. And on top of number 5, in number 4, you see the word for sister-in-law. It's kapai. So do you all see this is like doing a puzzle, right? So we can say now that the way to say his in Sierra-Popoluca is to use the prefix I. So that would be it. What I'd like you to do now is pause the video for a moment and do the rest of the analysis now. You can check your answers in Module 5.5 on Etudes in my written lecture. And I'm assuming that you guys do this. I will come back to this very, very easy exercise when I design the module quiz. Okay, we are moving on. Please follow along as I show you how this morphological analysis for Turkish is done. So we get 7 words in Turkish, eye, candle, horse, gun, and so on. And we get them in the singular and then in the plural, meaning göz means eye and gözler means eyes. Candle in Turkish means mum, and candles is mumlar. You guys get the idea. Okay, so we have a bunch of singular words, göz, mum, at, top, ip, gül, and el, and then we have the plural words there. Okay, so I'm asking you in question A here, how does Turkish mark its plurals? With infixes, with prefixes? How? With suffixes. So you guys see that the suffix is either ler or lar. So that is the plural. In Turkish. So the 2 forms of the Turkish plural are the lar and the ler. Now I'm asking you what phonetic environment, and that really means neighboring sounds, what phonetic environment triggers the lar? When does the language use lar? Look at the item in number 2 for candle, mum, mumlar, horse, number 3, atlar, and gun, number 4 is top, toplar. Okay, so these 3 have a lar, where all the others have ler. So what triggers the lar? Look at the vowels of the nouns. So look at number 2, the vowel in the noun is an U. In number 2, in number 3 it's an A, and in number 4 it's an O. So U, A, O triggers the lar ending. By the way, I just want to tell you this is far too difficult and involved a pattern to find for me to expect you to be able to do this on a test, but I want to show you how this works. Here is a vowel chart, and you remember this is a chart that makes it look as if we were looking at somebody's mouth from the side, and wherever they write the symbol for the vowel, that's where the tongue would be in the mouth. Okay, so u, a, o, they are all back vowels. So there's the pattern in Turkish. Turkish plural has two variations of the suffix morpheme. So it's either lar or ler. These two are variations of one another, and they are called allomorphs. This probably reminds you of allophones. So two variations, but native speakers think, it's the same thing, they lump them in together. So the rule goes like that. Lar is triggered by back vowels, u, a, o, and ler is triggered elsewhere. This phenomenon is called morphophonemics, and I know this looks like an intimidating term. So this means that the morphology of a language, whether you use this form or that form of the ending or of the prefix or so on, is tied to phonemics, to phonological, to sound-related rules. Okay, I'll show you more examples of that. We're going to your very own language. We're doing a morphophonemics exercise in English. I'm giving you here a whole bunch of words with the ed past tense. So we have walked and walked, huffed, flipped, and so on, and jogged, allowed, showed, and so on. So here's what we know about English. Typically, when the ed suffix goes on, people pronounce that d in ed either more like a t or more like a d. Okay? So there's a certain rule at work here that you as native speakers subconsciously know and apply all the time, but you're of course not consciously aware of that. So what causes the occurrence of the allomorphs? So sometimes you pronounce it walked, and sometimes you pronounce it jogged. Sometimes more with a T and sometimes more with a D. Those are allomorphs. Okay, so variations of one another. All the ones that are commonly pronounced with more of a T at the end, I put them on one side of the data, and all the ones that are commonly pronounced with a D at the end are on the right-hand side. So the T is voiceless and the D is voiced. See, what could cause when the two of them show up? It's the last sound of the verb. So when the ed ending is pronounced voiceless with a T, then the preceding sound, the neighboring sound, the ending of the verb, was also voiceless. Listen, we have a k in walked, so k, f, p, ch, sh, s, and k, voiceless, the whole lot of them. So if the verb ends in a voiceless sound, then the ending ed also comes with a voiceless sound with the t. So it's walked, huffed, flipped, munched. Okay. On the other hand, if the ending is pronounced with a d, which is voiced, then the sound that ends the verb is also voiced. Listen. G, ow, g, d, v. These are all voiced. Do you guys see this? Okay. Okay, so what that means is that the English past tense suffix -ed occurs in two allomorphs. It's either with a voiceless t after voiceless verb endings like walked, or with a voiced d after voiced verb endings like jogged. Okay, English plurals also show up with allomorphs. So how do you pronounce the plural in the word cat when you say cats? Does the S sound more like an S, or does it maybe sound more like a Z? So is it voiceless S, or is it voiced Z? And how do you pronounce the plural in the word dog? Is that S more like an S or more like a Z? Do you say dogs or dogs? Okay, typically it goes like that. In cat, the plural sounds like an S, a voiceless S, cats. In dog, the plural sounds like a voiced Z, dogs. Can you guess the rule for these allomorphs? What is different about T in cat than the G in dog? It's again voicing. So the voiceless noun endings in English take an S, like cat, t, 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 t. The ending was voiceless, t, and the plural is voiceless s as well, cats. Dog, g is voiced, so, oh sorry, that's a typo, it should say voiced. It should say voiced noun endings take a z, z is also voiced. Okay, I'm giving you another example of morphophonemics in English. English has the prefix in that typically means a negation. Like incredible means you cannot believe it. Inconclusive, you cannot reach a conclusion, and so on. So I have a bunch of words here within: incredible, inconclusive, incompetent, insufficient. And then I have a few where the in shows up as impossible, improbable, imbalanced. It's the neighboring sound that triggers the M. What is to the right of the M in all these examples? Do you guys see this? A P and a B. So P and B. And both of them are bilabial. Okay, so the P or the B triggers the M sound. So the P is bilabial, right? If you say P or B, that's bilabial. And so the N that is part of the prefix in, the N, which is alveolar, is changed to also be bilabial m. You guys see this? So this is really for ease of pronunciation. It's easier to say impossible than impossible. This is called an assimilation, meaning that the two become similar. They both become bilabial. This is only for people who are really, really, really interested in linguistics. This is called an assimilation. It's also called a sandhi, which is a very nice word from Sanskrit, an ancient language from India, and it means adjoining. Okay, that's it.